Episode 8, The Broken Man, discussing Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 7. I'm here again with Kate, my wife. How are you doing, Kate?
Good.
Okay, so the Hound is alive. I guess that's not really a surprise for you and I, who in the books there's big hints to that, but I guess it confirms that he is alive, and probably pretty surprising to show watchers, maybe?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you and I both knew that he was coming back. He's the gravedigger from the books, but in the books we haven't gotten that confirmed, so there's a little bit of a surprise, I guess, but not a huge one. But I'm glad to see him back.
Yeah, I've been a fan of the Hound since very early on, and I think the actor does a great job, and I really like the character. Anyone who hasn't read the books, that big fight between he and Brienne does not take place in the books. He gets infected from his wound from the bite on his neck, and Arya just leaves him to fall off the horse, and then he's found by that guy, played by Ian McShane. Nurses him back to health, and the Hound starts to rethink his life. I don't know if he becomes devout religion, but through...
You're talking the show now?
I'm talking either. He just seems to be rethinking his life and maybe having the opportunity to be the good guy that he might have been born to be if not for having such a tough life and his brother burning his face and everything else.
It's funny, though, because do you remember when he was with Arya and he's like, how many Starks have to die before you get it?
Yeah.
And then in this episode, everybody dies. You know, he's part of this thing, his life is saved. And here's this like peaceful community, and then everybody is killed in the community except for him, and he picks up that axe, and it's like, I don't know, I think that how much is someone changed by a near-death experience, and, you know, we'll find this out. And I did like the conversation between him and the Septon where he's like, you know, when am I going to be punished? And the Septon said, you have already, and will there be more or not, I think is a big question.
Yeah, I certainly don't think he's changed as far as not being violent anymore. He's not going to take on the monk life that the High Septon preaches. He's picked up that axe. He's going to go kill all these guys, most likely. But the Hound is one of those tragic characters that I think, like I said, had he been born to a different life, he might have grown up to have been a noble knight, something like Barristan Selmy or one of these kind of guys, but that's not the way his life worked out, and it made him bitter, and it made him very cynical. But he did have a good nature in him, trying to protect Arya and protect Sansa, and kind of doing the right-ish thing, but also doing the wrong-ish thing. And it goes to show, I think, the nurture side of the nature-nurture debate is how he could have turned out versus how he did turn out. And this just gave us another glimpse of how he could have been. But no, life happens, and now he's going to go back to being the killer that he's always been. Maybe for more noble reasons, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Septon said, hey, you've been spared for a reason. I wonder what that, reason is here. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he does.
I find it a little bit hard to believe that in these days in Westeros there would be a community like that. I mean, we've seen over and over that what's going to happen under those circumstances, and just seems so naive to me. And also, just to push the story further, the Hound was obviously pretty far away when all that happened, which was, his instinct was to protect the group, and I don't think he would have strayed off far enough for them to kill 20 people, but, they just had to move the plot forward with that, I think.
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering, so clearly that was the Brotherhood without banners. Have they just gone completely off the rails of how they originally congregated and are just out for themselves?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The Hound has a history with the Brotherhood without banners. That's who he fought in the cave when he killed Beric Dondarrion, and then Beric was brought back to life.
But they were about justice then.
Oh, well, at least they said that. But right, maybe Beric was holding it together as somewhat of a justice. Maybe he's not around anymore. We've heard of the Brotherhood twice now, 2 episodes in a row, and they certainly, these guys at least, were not anything good.
Right. I mean, it could be something that they used to be about justice, and they've started to stray from that. And I think that's something that the books has portrayed with the Brotherhood. But they also made a point to show that they have an affiliation with the Red God.
Yeah, and that's how it was before. That's how they brought back Beric. But, right, I don't really think of them too much as a religious group, but they were definitely pushing that tonight. And these guys are clearly just thugs, whether that's who the Brotherhood is now or if it was just a couple bad apples or whatever, but these guys are thugs, and they're going to get it from the Hound. The Hound is back. The Mountain is back. Maybe something will happen.
The Hound has some vengeance towards his brother.
Yeah, he said hate keeps him alive, and we all know who he hates.
Yep.
So, okay. Should we move to King's Landing?
Sure.
Marjorie Tyrell is playing the game.
Yes.
She is not a convert, which is no surprise to us, but some people were wondering if she really converted. But last week we talked about how we didn't think that was the case. And tonight she tries to get her grandma out of town and gives her a little note saying that she is still with Highgarden.
Yeah, with the rose, the sigil of their house. The High Sparrow definitely makes a threat towards Lady Olenna and her father, so...
Sorry, that was our cat going bananas. Yeah, no, so the High Sparrow made a threat toward Olenna, that's what you're saying, and the sinner that she is and always has been.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly making a threat to Marjorie, and so Marjorie really needs to get her family out of King's Landing. And I was very intrigued by this scene because she's really trying to get not just Lady Olenna, but I think the whole family, because their whole army is there right now. And I think she wants all of them gone. Like, it's almost as if she's saying, hey, Loras and I may not make it. And you need to go back and keep the family going. But, like, is it just to save Olenna's life because of the threat from the High Sparrow, or is there more there? And I think there's more there. I think Marjorie knows that there's something kind of going on.
Well, I didn't take it that way, that Marjorie was trying to spare them while she gets killed. I just took it as she was trying to spare Highgarden, certainly, or the Tyrells, but not because she sees herself on the chopping block. But I did wonder if this was all some kind of setup, which... I doubt, but the High Sparrow might have been testing her, and maybe that nun lady saw her pass the note. I see that as pretty unlikely, but maybe it was something like that.
Yeah, I think Marjorie is definitely playing the Game of Thrones here, and maybe she's drawn too much to it, even if she knows that it might bring about an early death. Maybe she thinks that she can win. I don't know. I think she's definitely playing, though. Like Lady Olenna said, hey, you can come back to Highgarden, and clearly the faith wouldn't allow something like that, so I understand Marjorie's response, but I clearly, again, she's playing the game.
Well, I think the faith would allow it if she's been forgiven.
No, because they had that whole scene where she needs to give Tommen an heir and her duties to the husband and all of that.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much control the faith has. Either way, good to see that she's playing the game, and it's nice to see the Queen of Thorns bitch out Cersei and call her for what she is.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's something like, it's similar to Cersei's Walk of Shame last season, but it's just like you've been waiting for Cersei to kind of get that from somebody, and not just her dad. I think Lady Olenna's right. Who does really Cersei have in her corner anymore? But
Cersei's awfully calm through all this, and, we saw in the preview tonight that looks like the Mountain's finally going to wreck some stuff next week, which I look forward to. So Cersei, it seems right now that the High Sparrow is in control, and the army's, Jaime left, the Lannister army's gone, the Queen of Thorns is leaving. So the High Sparrow at least thinks he's in control, but Cersei might be a wild card, and she's got this big giant zombie who might really screw things up. So it might make things a lot less predictable than it seems to be going right now.
I agree with you. I think Cersei has something up her sleeve, but I think she's willing to destroy everything like Littlefinger just to get to the top. Like, she would want to be Queen of the Ashes.
Yeah, perhaps. I think she's just more worried about Tommen, or should be, but she seems unperturbed by it all. That's what's confusing about it.
Well, and they brought up, when she went to meet with Lady Olenna, they both brought up family. Family matters. My son matters to me, and, your granddaughter and grandson matter to you. So she's making a point that, hey, family's my thing, which we all know with Cersei. The only thing that really she truly loves are her kids.
It's not so clear about this in the show, but in the books at least, she fancies herself as Tywin Lannister's, real child who's going to carry on the Lannister name and all this stuff. That seems to be her big concern, her love of her children and her family's dynasty.
Yeah. What do you think will happen to Loras?
I don't know. It's hard to say. God, I really don't know what's going to happen to Loras. He should be able to stand for himself in trial by combat if he wanted. But he's in no mental condition to do that, and the show really hasn't given us much indication of what a good warrior he is.
I can see that this might be the way that the show kind of just shows that he's lost and he's gone, or he's going to have some sort of like resilience arc, that he's really low right now, but he's going to come back. But I don't see something in the middle for him.
No, I'm predicting he'll die probably this season.
Yeah. And I mean, that would be great motivation for Marjorie.
Yeah. All right, so anything else in King's Landing?
No, not really that I can think of.
All right, so we saw the Blackfish tonight. It was a little underwhelming to me. I don't really know what I expected, but we got a little conversation out of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the shots here in River Run, it shows how pathetic the Freys really are.
Yeah.
I mean, that house, like, I think that house really might be on the brink of being over. I think the only reason they've lasted this long is because the twins, geographically, is such a strong point where they have a lot of power with that. But other than that, I don't think this is a house that you can expect much more from anymore. I do think the Blackfish is a badass, and I liked how he's been portrayed in the show, that he's pretty stern, and he's got this like hardcore aspect to him that a lot of the older characters have had with like Stannis and Tywin, and I appreciate that. It's kind of like still holding like this old school kind of thing there. I enjoyed when he and Jaime first met and they called each other by their nicknames. So he called Jaime Kingslayer and he called him Blackfish, and then he reminded Jaime of his oath that he didn't keep to Catelyn. And
yeah, I don't know that I blame Jaime for not keeping that oath. He hasn't been anywhere near. He has no idea where Arya is, and he's nothing he could do for Sansa. He did kind of pass that responsibility on to Brienne. I don't know if that's allowed in the deal or not, but
I don't think so. I mean, the oath is, hey, we release you. He was not doing well when he was held by the Stark army, and his whole basis for his release was to get those two girls, and he didn't really do much in my opinion, so I'm a little harder on him for that than you are.
Yeah, well, the whole show seems a little bit unclear on what to do with Jaime.
At least as of this point, I agree.
Yeah, he kind of goes back and forth on we like him, we don't care about him, we're supposed to feel sympathetic for him or not. His big arc was in season 3 when he lost his hand and explained to Brienne why he killed the Mad King, and then he gave her the sword. But then after that, he seems just kind of in between old Jaime and new Jaime and just kind of going along for the ride. So I'm not really sure what to think of his arc right now.
Well, I don't even know which Jaime we got. I think I'm actually okay with him going back and forth a little bit. I'm just not even sure which one it is. He's just been floundering as a character, I feel like, for more than a season here. And I'd just like to see something. Either be old Jaime or, redeeming Jaime here, but something.
But he's got a huge army now, and they're over there in River Run. I don't know what that means, if anything, but there's a whole lot of troops there.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, so I don't know if the Blackfish story is going to follow like it did in the books. So everything tonight was almost exactly as it is in the books. They threaten to hang the guy, and then they don't do it. And Jaime slaps that guy around, and then they parlay. So if the Blackfish does his namesake next episode, then it'll hold. And I'm purposely not spoiling it. I'm being vague there.
Is that why he's called the Blackfish, though? I think he's called the Blackfish because he's from House Tully, but he doesn't really go along with... Like, he and Hoster Tully, his brother, never got along. And that's why he ended up leaving and going to the Eyrie when Lysa got married to Lord Aaron. And he stayed there for a long time. And I think that's why he's called the Blackfish.
It is. But he still does something fishy.
Okay, I'll give you that.
All right. So the stuff in the north, Jon, Sansa...
Yeah, we got a couple different things that happen in the north here. I guess let's just start with the first part that they showed us in the episode. And I just thought it was interesting. I thought they were making a point to show that the wildlings are a little bit more honorable to the Stark clan than a lot of the northern houses are.
Yeah, it seems like they portray the wildlings as the story needs. Sometimes they're calm and collected, and sometimes they're a wild bunch. Sometimes they will absolutely refuse to bend the knee and see reason. Other times they'll follow.
But they're not bending the knee here.
Yeah.
And I think that there's one thing that, again, the show was really trying to show here, and then also with at Hardhome episode last season, that, I mean, it's a hard life. for the wildlings. No matter what tribe you're from, it's not easy living north of the wall in those winters. And I think that you have to have like this ability to be able to see things for what they are. And all of those wildlings know about the Night's King and the White Army. And so I think they're able to kind of really look at things much more realistically without all the politics the way a lot of like Westeros and those houses have. And that they're able to say, hey, this is our chance for survival. And we may not like it, but this is what we got to do. So they do it.
Yeah, they should join under Jon anyways, just so they can join with anyone, so that they're more likely to be prepared for the battles to come with the White Walkers. But then they're notoriously hard to get to do anything. That was what made Mance Rayder special, is he could unite them when no one else could.
Yeah, but they're so dwindled. They're not the numbers that they used to be under Mance. I mean, now they're just surviving, I think.
Yeah.
You got to appreciate though Wan the Giant and his pithy statements.
Yeah, kept it short and sweet.
Yeah. I remember watching something that they hired a guy to play Wan who's actually really, really big in real life because they wanted someone who kind of would understand what it was like to be so big and how they would carry themselves and have that be accurate.
Yeah, he walks like a big guy.
Yeah.
All right, and then they went to recruit the Mormonts.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of funny. They got 62 people, and they got yelled at by a 10-year-old girl.
Yeah, but I mean, she was tough. I liked her.
Yeah, I do have some problems with this, but I'll get to it after we recap the whole North.
Okay.
But yeah, so they got there, and the Mormonts, good, loyal Northern people, and then they move to the Glovers, and it does not work out so well. What do you think? The Glovers going to come around, or?
I'm surprised they didn't show that Rickon is alive to the Glovers the way they did with the Mormonts, and how the Boltons have taken him captive. They didn't talk about the Whites either. Like, it just was more like, yeah, we have the Wildlings and we know you don't like that. And it just seemed interesting to me how they seem to fight harder with the Mormonts than they did with the Glovers. And yes, the Glovers have been through more and the Boltons helped them take back the castle. But I have a feeling the Glovers are going to join at some point. We'll just have to see which side.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. So they mentioned that the Ironborn had taken the Glover Castle, which is Deepwood Mott. And then they mentioned that I guess the Boltons helped drive him out. Is that what happened?
That's what the head Glover guy was saying, that, the Boltons helped us take this back.
So, of course, I have to mention, I would be remiss if I did not, that Deepwood Mott is held by the Ironborn in the books, but Stannis takes it back and gives it to the Glovers, and then the Glovers join Stannis' army. So I have a couple problems here. So Davos was the one who talked Lady Mormont into backing Jon and Sansa, which is essentially what he did with the Iron Bank with Stannis. And I mentioned this in a previous podcast, but I just really feel like we're being told the same story twice. And this kind of bothers me. So they're going looking for armies, just like Stannis did, but Stannis went to the bank, and these guys are doing it in the north. But of course, in the books, Stannis does not go to the bank. He goes to see the people in the north. And then they're at literally the same camp that Stannis was at. So it's almost a retread of that story. And then Jon is apparently ready to go on a suicide mission, just like Stannis. He's saying, we got 2,000 men, and we're going to go fight with these 2,000 men. And that's it. And this wouldn't bother me so much, except for the fact that for whatever reason, the show wanted to get rid of Stannis and change his story. And that's fine. A lot of people don't like Stannis or whatever, but I feel like it cost us a whole good season of season 5. And they did this with Tyrion and Barristan Selmy too. They rushed Stannis's to get totally destroyed by the Boltons, only to tell us the same story this season with different characters. And then last season, they rushed Tyrion to go meet up with Dany, and they killed off Barristan to make room for Tyrion. And now we have Tyrion not doing anything this season. He hasn't even been in the last 2 episodes. He had one kind of good scene where he made a compromise. But it's like, why did they do these things? Yeah. I would have rather have Barristan still alive and Tyrion, I don't know, still traveling with Jorah or something else. Like, I really feel that they butchered a lot of stories and characters that are compelling to me just so they can have other people do those things.
Yeah.
And
I agree that especially the Tyrion storyline was rushed starting in season 5. That they could have really changed that a little bit. They could have given us some other really interesting, great storylines before he got to Meereen, which I think he would have ended up there, of course, but I think there was more that they could have done with that. And you're right, like, what is Tyrion really doing this whole season? And I guess maybe they haven't had much for him, or we have yet to see in the next 3 episodes.
Yeah. So that's just my little rant. That's why season 5, I think, is going to go down as the worst rated season, because they did all this stuff to move us into season 6, and then I just don't really see the reason why. It's almost like they feel like they have too many characters and they just had to get rid of some actors or something.
Actually, I was just thinking, didn't the Boltons take back Deepwood Mott when Roose asked Ramsay, like, hey, you want to not be a Snow anymore? You want to prove yourself to me? And that's when Ramsay has Theon, or Reek, pretend to be Theon and convince the Ironborn, who were all sick at Deepwood Mott. And that's when they take it.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Was that Deepwood Mott?
I'm pretty sure.
No, that was Moat Cailin.
Oh, you're right.
I always get those two mixed up also. But no, that was Moat Cailin. No. But yeah, so in the books, Deepwood Mott is taken back by Stannis from the Ironborn, and that's where he captures Asha.
Right, Yara in the show.
Right. So that's just so much different.
Yeah.
Before we go to Yara and the Greyjoys in tonight's episode, let's just mention Sansa's letter that she sent out.
Yeah, well, even before we do that, I definitely got the sense that the show was trying to show Sansa's trying to be like this commander and leader, and she's not very good at it. So first, we see it with the Glovers, where she tries to remind, Lord Glover about their commitment to the Starks. And John kind of looks away of like, shut up, stop talking. And then she starts questioning Davos when he was talking about how great the camp location was there, like, what's so special about it? And then she does it right after that with John about having Davos as an advisor.
They seem to be building some tension between John and Sansa, which kind of makes me uncomfortable. I don't know where exactly they're going to go with that, but they're definitely, they don't seem to be on the same page quite often.
Right, and she's not telling anybody that she met with Littlefinger, and I think now that's what her letter is she's reaching out to him and being like, yeah, we need your men. I now need you again. And what I don't like about it is Sansa's character. Once again, she's like, it shows that she's still being manipulated by a Littlefinger and hasn't learned anything from the whole Bolton experience. And she's not open to appreciating John's experience as a leader and things, and Davos as someone who's been with, like, Stannis, who's one of the best military commanders. It's like, what has Sansa ever learned about any of this stuff? And yet she's kind of parading around like, I'm Stark and I'm special. It's like, I feel like she could be so much wiser than how she's being portrayed. And I just feel disappointed with at least this episode's portrayal of what I think she's capable of and then what's actually happening.
No, yeah, I agree. It's like, do they want us to look bad at her so that we are rooting for Jon more or something? I don't know. It seems like weird writing. And I agree with you. That letter must be to Littlefinger to request troops from the Eyrie, and they'll probably come and aid Jon.
Hopefully,
and Sansa. Yeah.
But it's very reminiscent of Ned and Littlefinger striking the deal of like, hey, when the time is right, I need you to back me, and we'll take Cersei and her kids out of King's Landing. And then that's when Ned gets captured, and he ends up dying for it.
Right. So it all depends on what's the better game for Littlefinger, who to back.
And I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to wait and bide his time, and then do what makes the most sense.
Yeah, but I think Littlefinger would be pretty dumb to back Ramsay, who's so unpredictable. Like, Roose would make sense, but he must know now that Ramsay is not someone that you want to be in bed with.
Yeah.
All right, so the Greyjoys, Yara gives Theon a little pep talk, and
she gives him some tough love.
And it's confirmed that they're going to go try and team up with Dany she's just stealing Euron's idea, I guess, and running with it. He gave his little speech at their Democratic. Oh yeah, I always forget to mention the Greyjoys are the only democratically elected group in the whole Seven Kingdoms. The most savage group there is the only one with our modern day sensibilities, at least in that regard. But yeah, so she just stole his idea, I guess.
I guess the only thing similar to Theon is kind of what came up with the Hound of clearly Theon hasn't died yet, and I wonder what's in store for him yet. I wonder why he's been spared, what he's left to do, and whether it's by the gods or whatever. Just I mean more of here from the storytellers of this, but Theon could have died so many different times before, and yet he hasn't. And I hope that he's going to play a fairly significant role in something.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. It's hard for me to care about Theon or any of the Greyjoy storyline, really. I guess they'll serve as Dany's vessels, and Euron might do something interesting. Euron's pretty interesting in the books, but I don't know. I'm not too into the Greyjoy storyline.
Yeah, we didn't see too much with them in this episode, so I don't think that there's a whole lot more that we can chat about.
And then the last thing, so Arya completely not paying attention to who she's supposed to maybe fight.
Yeah, I don't buy this at all. I find it really hard to believe that she was that off her guard to get stabbed like that, especially like I didn't buy it at all.
Yeah, and she was walking around all throwing money all over the place. Like, does she not know that a person who can wear different people's faces is coming after her? And yeah.
And that they are going to come after her. Jack and Hagar was very clear. There won't be a third chance. Like, I just, God, this is not a good episode for the Stark women of just like, I feel like for both of them, you know better.
Yeah, it was silly. And she got slashed and stabbed twice, and the knife turned in her stomach. And then she managed to get in a good headbutt and a good shove and jump off the edge, swim however far enough for the waif not to chase her, and then walk around, stumble around town holding her stomach. She would not survive that. It wasn't stabbed, like, if she got just slashed, that's one thing, but she got stabbed 2 times with a big ass knife. So, and yeah, wherever they're going to go with this, I'm not sure, but the whole Arya thing I thought was really dumb tonight.
Well, and then when she's walking around, where, like, again, the House of Black and White makes a point to have people who are always watching and listening to know information, that would be so easy for them to know that she's still alive, which means they're going to come after her again. And so it just, that whole part I'm just not buying very well here. How can she survive? I don't know. Maybe she can go back to the House of Black and White and drink that water and maybe it'll cure her.
Right. I was thinking that Jaqen's got to save her somehow. That seems the only way out for her, which, last episode, the waif was all like, I told you, and I told you that, and she was had her own personality when she's supposed to be no one, so maybe Jaqen wants her dead too. So.
Yeah, or not. And maybe he just knows, like, remember he said either way a face is going to be added to the hall, and I think at the time we were thinking it was going to be either Lady Crane or Arya's, and I'm wondering, what if it's the waif or Arya's? What if Jack and Hagar is kind of saying, hey, these two kind of have it out for one another, so what if I just let this be, and whoever wins, and I'm fine with that.
Right, but I still think that the only way realistically Arya gets out of this is if he saves her, because
she doesn't have anyone else there, and clearly she's not using her.
And she's got
her frontal lobe in this episode.
Two big holes in her stomach.
I did really like the shot of Arya and Bravos there, where she's looking out, and you can see that statue. I thought there were some really great shots in this episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, so the episode's called "The Broken Man." My reverse engineering pretty much only unites that to the Hound, but you think it maybe relates to some other people?
Yeah, I think there's some other people that like maybe it might apply to. So you mentioned the Hound, but like maybe even Jaime Lannister, who we saw in this episode, where he's lost his hand. He was just fired from the King's Guard. He's not getting very far or being very effective with the Blackfish. Maybe even High Sparrow, just with what we've learned of like his past and his sins, and he clearly lusts for power. So it he's trying to be this pious man, and yet he's broken with that. And then Arya, just with the fact that she's stabbed. Like, I think maybe something else about this episode is do not underestimate the broken man, and everyone that I just listed here that could potentially apply to is don't underestimate them.
Yeah, I thought Stannis was going to show up again in this episode.
I think you're always going to think Stannis is going to show up.
Well, the Broken Man, I thought he was going to be the Ghost of Winterfell this time. Which reminds me, so Melisandre is, I guess, with Jon and Sansa and Davos cruising around town. They just decided to kick her out of the picture for a few episodes.
Yeah, there's a lot of continuity problems this season. And I'm really trying to figure out, like, am I as annoyed with this season just because I'm expecting so much and things are just starting to come together so much now? Or are they just struggling ever since season 5 to bring some things together in a little bit more coherent way?
Well, this is 2 setup episodes in a row.
Yeah.
Which does seem a little like a lot of setup. So hopefully it'll have a big payoff in the last 3 episodes.
Like, I don't mind a little cliffhanger here or there, and they've done that before in some of the seasons that I've really enjoyed, but it's almost as if they're just giving, like, little snippets here and there sometimes of storylines, or putting in extra stuff they don't need to. What you were saying before, rushing some storylines and yet dragging out some other ones. I really hope that, we've got 3 episodes left. I really hope that they're going to be all big ones with a lot of stuff happening. No more setup for the rest of season 6 for me.
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
All right.
Excited for next week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. All 9 of you.